Are you planning a big trip to the great outdoors? Wanting to know more about the big do's and don'ts of camping? Trying to avoid getting mauled and or eaten by a bear? You should probably hope to achieve that last one in general. I'm going out of my way to avoid that as we speak, but if you'd like to learn how, by all means, stay tuned to the end of this video. First of all, do not forget your bug spray. You think the bugs outside your house are a nuisance? Ha! Well, you're probably right. I swear every time I step outside, I get bit by something. It's an absolute nightmare. But rest assured that if you're out in the woods, this problem is amplified tenfold. You've got a lot more bugs to worry about, ones you're probably not familiar with, ones that might be a little more dangerous than what you're used to. There could be anything out there: wasps, termites, tarantulas, dung beetles, locusts, scorpions, a second wave of tarantulas. Ha! Okay. Some of these depend heavily on where you live, but you get the idea. These things bite too. They carry disease, poisons, and worst of all, they're really icky. Ugh. And again, the numbers are way bigger than we're going to be used to in our average day-to-day life. A whole swarm of mosquitoes could be hazardous to your health, and a swarm of moths could be hazardous to your hanging laundry. Do yourself a favor and pack up that bug spray. Don't forget to bring it, and don't forget to use it, or you'll wake up covered head to toe in hives. Or alternatively, you'll be covered in ants, which is honestly a lot worse in many ways. And while we're on the subject of things you'd best not be leaving at home, do not forget the toilet paper under any circumstances. We're going to try to paint this picture for you in the least disgusting way possible. But have you ever found yourself on the commode doing your business, finishing up and reaching over, only to find yourself grasping thin air? You're stranded, alone, or so you desperately hope, and in severe danger. Well, if that's ever happened to you, how about you imagine that you're in that exact same scenario, except now you're out in the wilderness. This problem sounds obvious, but it's worth hammering home because sincerely, this might be the last thing you want to be running out of while you're out camping. Food and clean water is nice and all, but a good roll of TP is absolutely invaluable. Keep in mind that if you're going out in an RV, those use a very specific brand of toilet paper. And even if you're going to a campground and you plan on using what they've supplied you, it's always a good idea to pack extra anyway, just in case. Trust us on this one. You don't want to be the one who has to gamble on wiping with leaves and ends up with poison ivy rash in a highly unspeakable place. That one time in 11th grade. Oh no. Stop thinking about it. Stop thinking about it. And while we're talking about campground etiquette, do not dismiss the rules of the campground. Look, priority number one when you're in the outdoors is to survive. No doubt about that. But priority number two should probably have something to do with, not being a jerk. If you're camping around other folks, you should be courteous. Remember that you're all relying on one another during these trips. And if there are rules in place, you need to follow them. Don't be blaring music unless you've cleared it with your neighbors. Don't try and set up camp at night and risk waking everyone. That's another thing that's liable to be banned. Don't try and hog the site. Everyone has their territory, and they likely won't much like having it infringed upon. You know, people that are a little closer to nature, they're a little bit more like animals, right? And a lot of animals are pretty territorial. It happens that way. Most of all, you need to pay attention to fire bans. These things are posted by local authorities, and they're not to be disregarded all willy and or nilly. If they say it's too dry for you to start a fire, do not start that fire. Simple as that. Ain't worth the risk. And you don't want to be starting a forest fire, now do you? You don't want Smokey mad at you. Nobody does. We all respect and fear him in equal measure. On a roll with segues so far, let's keep it going, huh? While we're on the subject of campfires, do not build a fire that you cannot control. This is another one that seems like it should go without saying, and yet, it happens all the time. People just try to create as big a fire as they possibly can, like they're trying to compete with everyone else. They get cocky, thinking they can handle anything, and the next thing you know, they're a pile of ash. That's right, the camper and all their gear and everything they set up, and all their friends and family, just turn right into a pillar of salt on the spot. Wait, sorry. Confused camping with the Bible again. But for real, don't get overconfident when it comes to starting fires. Make it big enough to get yourself warm and cozy, and no bigger. Again, you absolutely don't want to endure Smokey's wrath. None of us do, and you don't want to risk burning yourself either. On that note, please just avoid trying to use gas fires altogether. Gasoline can burn a lot harder than you're expecting, and the fumes alone can be ignited, which makes even using a trail of it pretty unsafe. I mean, come on, this stuff explodes here. It was never really intended to be used for an open flame, and it's wildly easy for a gas fire to go out of control, which is why pretty much anyone who knows what they're talking about when it comes to camping recommends you start your campfire the old-fashioned way or not at all. Alright, next segue. Here we are doing so good, but there's just not as good a segue for this one. Oh well. Next up, do not leave things unattended when a storm is brewing. While the weather can take us by surprise in a grander sense, generally speaking, a big storm isn't going to come out of nowhere. Conditions pretty much never go from strictly calm to 100 mile per hour winds branches and lightning knocking down trees in a matter of seconds. Mother Nature is just a bit more gradual with her workings than that. This means that usually you can get a sense of when a storm might be on the way. Take note of an early darkening of the sky, an accumulation of cumulus clouds, sudden drops in the temperature or atmospheric pressure, or abrupt changes of the wind. And if you see the telltale signs of a storm, do your due diligence to ensure that your camp is well suited for it. If you've got an RV parked under a large tree, or really anything under a big tree that you'd rather not lose, move it. Move it quick. Better to do it and realize later that you wasted the effort than not to do it, and end up with a tree splitting your only ride home right down the middle. And if you've got an awning or a cloth tent set up, make sure to pack that in as well, lest they be sent flying by gale force winds. Now then, while we're on the subject of things to not just leave unattended, oh look at that, got our Segway mojo back, baby. Lastly, do not leave food sitting around outside. You're out there eating in the peace and solitude of nature. It's a very chill thing, we understand. And maybe you cooked up a little more than you were prepared to wolf down. It happens to the best of us. But when you simply get up and walk back to your tent without cleaning up after yourself, just leaving that food out in the open for the world to see, you're opening yourself up to a lot more than just critique from those who find it rude. My friends, my comrades, my confidants, my good chums, my lovely subscribers. Do you want to attract bears? Because this is how you attract bears. And all sorts of other animals and insects, but I really want to stress that this is the easiest way to find yourself staring down a grizzly. Specifically a very hungry grizzly in all likelihood. Yogi Bear was based on a true story, and he will 100% steal your picnic basket, as well as rip up your campsite and everyone in it if he's feeling frisky enough. Don't let it happen to you. Avoid Yogi at all costs. He's nowhere near as affable in real life. And that's all the time we have for today's video. Feeling a bit more prepared to go into the wilderness now? Maybe research a little bit more, since there's only so much we could really fit into this video. But we do think this served as a nice set of reminders. Want to see more videos like this one? Be sure to let us know down in the comments below, and until next time, thanks for watching.